Okay, speaking of thrifting your garden, thrifting the alley, you know, getting stuff for free, making your own things as gifts. This would be a great Mother's Day gift, or it would be a great gift any time of year. Get out your little ones, get out your pruners. Just make sure that what you prune is not poison ivy or anything that the kiddos or you are allergic to. But in my alley, I was talking the other day about how I'm just reimagining, rethinking, and wanting to optimize what the alley has to offer and how we might beautify it a little bit. But it also has lots of material for me to use to bring inside to beautify the inside of my home. And one of those is coming up in this oldie but goodie video that we did at the other house using all sorts of different overgrown vines, trumpet vine, wisteria. I can't remember what all we used, whips and suckers from other trees. This is going to show you how to do just that. But just so you know that I didn't leave it just behind there, I also made one from clippings in the alley. You can see it's still got some greenery on it. As soon as that dries completely, I will slough it off, and then I might add even a little bit more to its circularity. Cool. Yeah, it's pretty fun. To it, maybe tuck in some dried blooms or something. I need to add a little bit of wire. I just made this, so it's far from complete. But then I can just hang them here. And they can dry in place. I can tuck in some little flowers, and then I can gift these to some of my neighbors who I think would get a kick out of it. I think Miss Clara, she might get a kick out of it too. We might have to make some together. So that is just a reference to this video that you're getting ready to see. Again, use any kind of bucket or whatever as a template to get it completely round. This one I just made, so it needed to probably dry in place. Okay, this is such a fun thing. Every time Stuart comes, he looks at this, and it makes him so happy that it found a new life here at the cottage, because you may recall this was at my other house, at the fairy tale house, with the old trash cans that came in it originally. I finally had to replace those. They got holes in the bottom of the can, and I typically use one for potting soil. This one is empty and waiting for some pea gravel that Hubs is picking up. But I can sit it right here by my potting area, whether that's very informal like we did this weekend, or it's more formal on the potting bench. But it's right here. It's reusing, recycling, repurposing not only something that still had life in it, but it's just another little reminder of how a treasure, a piece of trash, can turn into treasure, and how treasured good friends are.
Indeed.
Well, if you were waiting for it, here you go. Stuart and I have our banter back. Obviously, you guys like the conversation that goes on between the two of you, as well as the conversation in and around the garden. So definitely we will be back and forthing today as I talk about our topic. You guys know how much I love to thrift and how I think thrifting can be kind of a lifestyle. Well, thrifting is all about, in many respects, being creative, but obviously it's also about saving money. And there's no better way to save money than to not spend any money at all. So today, instead of thrifting for the home, for our wardrobe, or even for the garden, we are going to thrift from the garden. And these are things I have sometimes in the past referred to it as shopping the garden, but I was very specifically today finding all sorts of treasures as I was doing my morning stroll. And I thought this would be kind of a fun thing to do right before Mother's Day, because some of these activities would be fun to do with your kiddos, but they also just make great gift ideas and home decor ideas that are very thrifty. Again, because you're not spending any money. So what you'll probably need is just some pruners, your imagination, a good set of eyes, and maybe a shovel. So let's start out here. I have done a video on this in the past, and Stuart and I will put up the link about how you can make wreaths from overgrown vines, maybe from trees that sucker, and how you can make a wreath form. I think the video we did actually was on hydrangeas, Stuart. Do you remember when we did that? Okay, so this is just a fun way to make a little green wreath. Now, this is more of a teardrop shape. If you want it to be perfectly round, you could get it to be perfectly round simply by putting it around a bucket or something where it would hold that form and it would dry like that in place. This is kind of a fresh wreath. I like the fact that the greenery on it is still fresh, but if you hung it outside and it dried, it would also look beautiful dried. Now this one I haven't embellished too much. You could embellish it as much as you wanted with different kinds of clippings from the garden. So let me show some of the things you might want to be on the lookout for. And I've got some of them over here. And again, just let your imagination, Stuart, was that a squirrel?
He's still right above your head.
Is it taunting me?
Maybe a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Squirrels, my nemesis. So here are some fun things especially if you're wanting to do kind of a really spring green, fresh looking wreath. Here are some of the things that I thought would be appropriate, because all you do is you just take these items and then you tuck them in between the vining layers and the wreath form itself. So here are some immature berries. These are from Nandina, but you could get any kind of immature berries that are in tiny, tiny form. I love right now using hellebore flowers that are somewhat already dried, because these will last very long. And in fact, they look really cool, you guys, when they completely get mature and then they turn brown in the center. This one is a little bit rain damaged, but I have all sorts of hellebore flowers that are drying on the plant itself, which I will save for these kind of projects. But also, because I'm always thinking ahead, I will clip some of these flowers in their dried state, because I might want to use them in small fall arrangements, or to decorate packages at Christmas time, because they look really, really beautiful with a sprig of greenery. Stuart just made a little acknowledging nod of his head, so he liked that idea. So some of these dried hellebores are good ideas. This is also a very fun thing to shop your garden for. If you look at different spent bulbs, a lot of times they put out these sweet little bulbettes that have seeds in them that will then dry. These came from some Spanish bluebells. Now I like these. These would be very sweet, bundled together with a ribbon to put atop a package or something. But you could also put them inside the different cavities of your wreath, or they would be so sweet in tiny little flower arrangements that you could put on, say, your Mother's Day serving tray for breakfast in bed or something like that. I love those. And then lastly, this is, Stuart was so sad at the spent viburnum blooms, but look at the interesting architecture and silhouette and kind of delicacy of what the spent flower heads look like. Again, these would be cool dried, maybe spray painted. I'm going to gather a number of these to use for different projects. So be on the lookout for that. Also, some things to look for are clematis seed heads that have that beautiful thread-like spiral form, anything like that, because look how pretty it looks just together as just a montage in this chair. I think they're beautiful. But I digress. Let me show you how easy it is to make a wreath form like that. And it's not about perfection, you guys. It's just about doing it. So I was looking at this large abelia shrub that's really overgrown, and it definitely needs to be thinned out, pruned out, and made to look a little bit more tidy. So in the process of cutting out the dead wood and everything, I noticed that the shape of these branches would be perfect for wreath making. So I'm just going to cut a section of this branch, and then you don't even necessarily have to have a bit of wire or something to secure this in place. Sometimes the tension alone of the branches will make it assume that circular form, but it's basically just a question then of weaving these long branches together to make a wreath form. And sometimes what I typically try to do is get those suckers. I'm going to get this one from the bottom. And it's been after a rain, so they have more moisture in them and they're a little bit more pliable. So I'm going to cut this one a little bit shorter to cut off some of the really woody portions of it. Stuart, if you'll come back over here. And then you just kind of continue weaving this new branch into the other, in and out. And you can do this. This is an abelia shrub, old-fashioned abelia shrub. But you could use some of that overgrown wisteria. You could use trumpet vine. You could use some of the viburnum branches, and you just weave it like that. Then if you had some bits of wire or whatever, you could secure it on the end. The more you weave, the more tension you put onto this, then the more circular the shape can be. But again, if you wanted to just have it as a teardrop shape, that's fun. And then just let your kiddos go out there and clip any kinds of things that you would tuck into this fresh wreath. If you have some kind of fragrant bloomer, this would be wonderful maybe to kind of hang in the shower. You could do this with eucalyptus branches if you are lucky enough to live in a zone where you can grow eucalyptus or any other kind of fragrant branches. You could do this with olive branches from your olive trees. It would be really beautiful. And then you could leave it just au naturel like this, or you could put a ribbon on it, something along those lines to make it a little bit more decorative. But this is a case of being very thrifty. You're not going out and buying, say, a grapevine wreath or something like that from Michael's, but you're making it from your own garden. And I think that's kind of a really fun thing to do. You could hang this, obviously, on your front door or in your kitchen, maybe tuck in some things that are culinarily inspired, and it would be very fun. So that is my project number 1 that's very thrifty because it's garden fresh and it costs nothing.
And there, jumping around right behind you.
The squirrel is now moved on over to the neighbor's yard. So, okay, let's move on from this project number 1 to project number 2. So my love of topiary is no secret. And I think I started this obsession maybe when I was in high school. And we moved to Indiana from Oklahoma, and I didn't know anybody. And during the summer, it was kind of lonely. So I would go out into the woods and I would dig up small trees and things, and I would bring them inside. And in that small state, they kind of look like topiary. So I have done this before. There are so many different kinds of things that you can dig out of your own garden to create small trees to use as either houseplants or topiary. And here's an example of that. And Stuart, remind me, I will take a picture of 2 large specimens of this that I have in my office right now. So this, again, is one of the kinds of things that I'm on the lookout for when I do my morning stroll. But Stuart, can we just take a moment to show how beautiful the foxglove, the columbine, everything looks. The yarrow just really benefited from all of that rain. And for every spire of foxglove you see in bloom, there are some that are still coming into bloom. It looks very meadowish now. It looks very cottage garden-like and a little bit overgrown and rumpled, which I think is perfect for this time of year. Once all of this stuff finishes blooming, I'll come back in here and I will groom it pretty well. But again, I digress. So see here, this is I've never really known for sure what it is, but it comes up in my garden, even though I do not grow it. And I think it's some kind of laurel, a cherry laurel or some such. Now, I have no idea if this is going to come out of the garden easily. It's nestled in between the ground cover and these hellebores and things, but I spotted it, and you can see I've kind of even been pinching it back in preparation of digging it out. So let's see if I can get it out. If I can't, and I don't get a large enough root ball on this, no harm, nor no foul. Why, Stuart? Because it's thrifted. It's from our own garden, and we're not spending any money on it.
It's
now,
free 99.
It's free 99? I've never heard that expression before. Free 99. Okay, so I'm going to dig this out, and now is the perfect time to do this because it's been raining and the ground is just so moist. And I'm going to try to get a pretty root ball, pretty large size root ball for the scale of the plant. But the other thing that I must point out is I have a past with these. I have some history with these kind of little laurels, and I know that they can handle abuse and that they can handle being transplanted. That just makes me so happy.
Looks so
Okay.
nice and neat.
Yes, so nice and tidy and neat. So what I will do is I will pot this up. Now I have some hitchhikers here. I don't know what that is. I've got some kind of little volunteer tree. I've got some vining, some vinca minor, which I don't want. I don't know what that is, and I don't want it. But I have here at the base, I've got a little tiny hellebore. So I might leave that in place. I might remove these lower leaves, pot this up, and how cute is that, Stuart? We have a little topiary that if you bought at a florist would cost you some money. But no, it is thrifted and free from our garden. So I will take this to the back, Stuart, and we will pot it up along with another thrifted candidate. Okay, come this way, Stuart. And in the meantime,
Still got to do a question of the day, don't forget.
oh yes, oh, thank you for reminding me. Let me know if you guys have tried this digging out little trees to make little topiaries or things, or really any kind of items that you look for in your own gardens. Whoa! I think we've got that car show about to come up on Western. I think that might be it. But that you thrift from your own garden, some of your favorite things, and because I would love to know that. And Stuart, thank you for reminding me about our question of the day, because I hate to forget it. So deep in here amongst all of this stringy sedum, look here, Stuart, it's been hiding.
It's our little Christmas tree.
But I found it. It's one of our little blue point junipers. Probably a bird planted it. Now, I am not so optimistic about being able to dig this one out because it is right up against a tree root, and I may not be able to get a large enough root ball. But again, it is a gardening risk worth taking. So by golly, Stuart, we're going to take it.
That's a t-shirt we need to make.
By golly, a gardening risk worth taking, or
Yes.
by golly?
Well, the gardening risk we're taking was my original thought.
Okay. What was that expression that you were using? It tickled
Tickled
you
pi-
pink.
tickled pink.
Does this tickle you pink,
Oh, yeah,
Stuart?
that's pretty cool.
It's pretty fun. Okay, so all of this sedum, you can see here about how much root ball that I got. I can just fill that in with some dirt. In this case, I don't think I want any of this sedum to hitchhike along with it. So I am going to take that out. However,
Because the hellebore at the bottom of the other one will be like super pretty when I get
yeah, it'll look like well, like it would be in nature in the forest, where there'd be a little understory plant. Now here I might leave some of this other tiny form of stone crop, because that would be an understory plant. I might remove some of that browning foliage, but this would be great just as a traditional Christmas tree form.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So I shouldn't butcher it too much and turn it into a lollipop. Okay, so I'm going to leave these. I'll come back and get my shovel momentarily. Did you notice how I placed, not plopped, my shovel? Very mindfully, so I can go back and remember where I put it.
Makes all the difference.
Okay, so now look, I have 2 thrifted trees from my own garden. Stuart, let's go to the back and...
Do you need the shovel?
No, we'll leave that there for now because I only have 2 hands. So we'll go back here past our first thrifted project. Back through the gate. I'm going to set these guys here for right now, kind of in the shade, because I want to show you something. Another way to thrift is sometimes in Stuart's garage. So come over here and look at this thing that I thrifted from his garage. He was getting ready to put it out. What, you were going to take it to Goodwill or...
It's just been on the side of my house for
forever, but
forever.
Look, it comes in this great stand. What I like about it is it's got cover to it. These got, you know, trash can covers. So now I've put my gravel in here in one of them. I need to get a new handle for this one, but I've got my potting soil in this one, but it comes in this great stand, but it keeps the wet out. It protects them. My other ones over here, they were constantly getting wet. So I've kind of cleaned up this area a little bit, Stuart.
You're willing to show it to everybody. So
and I'm willing to show it to everyone, so that means I've cleaned it up. I do need, very importantly, I need to empty out all of the water over here so that it doesn't attract mosquitoes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. I'll do that for you, Stuart, just for you. Okay, so now come over here and remember I've got these candidates here that I'm going to pot up, and that guy might be kind of cute in there. What do you think, Stuart?
Looks good, yeah.
That might be kind of cute in there. And then I'll find a pot for this, but I think the other 2 that I have up in my office are in kind of an Italian clay pot, and I might want to stick with that aesthetic. So right now I'm just going to leave it right there where we can identify just how cute it is. Okay, now come over here, Stuart. This is also, you know, tiny houses are so popular right now. This is kind of like tiny house gardening, where you're doing dollhouse gardening. So here is one that I have had potted up for a while. I think you guys have seen it. But look at how happy it is in here and how cool it looks. And it's got kind of a bonsai look because it's a little bit sitting askew in the pot. And then some other thrifted things from the garden are some moss. And I love to use any kind of bark that has moss on it. I also like to use it to mulch that pot. So let me get out of the way, Stuart, so you can show people up close how fun that looks. And now at Christmas time, with little fairy lights on that, would that not just be so dear?
We have photos of that, I think.
I think maybe we do, but I think that would be so, so sweet. But in the meantime, it makes a wonderful little treasure if you wanted to use this for fairy gardening, or bring it inside, put it in a sunny window, you could. Now, the other thing that I have been shopping for, which I think I have mentioned before, let me go back a little bit. In my book, and if you haven't bought one yet, I hope you will. And if you have bought one and if you've read it, if you would consider writing a review, there's my commercial, writing a review on Amazon, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think. But in my book, I talk about, as part of my gardening manifesto, that there's 2 prime opportunities in the garden. One is as seasons change, so from spring to summer, summer to fall, etc., as seasons change, but also as weather conditions change before and after a rain. So this is one of those moments of opportunity right after it's rained, when the ground is not overly saturated so that it will ruin the tilth of the soil to dig. It's dried out enough, so now is a great time to plant, to dig up little specimens like this. But thirdly, it's a great time to look for little treasures that might have come down from the trees, little garden gifts that you want to hunt for, because you can do some very charming things with them. And again, they're free and thrifted. So recently, I have been obsessed with these tiny little pine cones. And most of them for me are in this area here. Stuart is also, I mentioned this in another video, is always on the lookout for me. Okay, here's one. And I keep this container open and in my office, so whenever I find one, I can drop it in here, because these are going to be so adorable at Christmas time, or even now, mulching some of my topiary and small trees. So I'm getting quite a collection of them.
Planning ahead.
I am planning ahead for the seasons ahead, but I get so much almost stupid delight out of finding things like this, as will your grandchildren or your children or your photographer. Anyone in your world, once you know that you're hunting for something, it makes it that much more special. And this is also an example of how one thing, okay, that may be not such a much, but you put it together with a lot of other of the same elements and it looks very, very special. So imagine if you wanted to buy these at an expensive florist, what they would cost. Yes, either by the pound or by the box. But we're not going to do that. Why? Because they're free and they're thrifted, and it's a garden treasure. So that is another kind of project. Be on the lookout for fun things that after a storm may have come down, including really interesting branches. So I'm always on the lookout for really gorgeous garden branches, either for a plant support or for things like, Stuart, if you can showcase that lantern over there. I just love the looks of that branch. I just thought it was sculpturally beautiful, and it just adds another layer and another textural element to this little vignette here. And it was naturally this dark, but it would look cool if you wanted to spray paint it. And you could bring it inside at Christmas time. You could have used something like that if you're into Easter egg trees, which I'm not, but if you are, you could have spray painted it, put it in some foam or something, and made a tree form out of it. I could do that with this same one. Every time I see a really great branch like this, I try to keep it either to put in my little fireplace outside to use as kindling, or to use as a beautiful tree support, or because at Halloween, these kind of branches are absolutely wonderful, spray painted black, and then making a bouquet of just gorgeous branches that are dark black. Maybe you could put some of that fake spider webbing on them or something. But I just think the architecture of these kind of branches is absolutely beautiful. So be on the lookout for them to thrift from your garden after whomever is doing tree pruning after a storm, or whenever you might have these kind of branches come down. Again, it would also just be a great asset in your garden to prop up tomatoes, to prop up perennials or anything like that. And I think it's just beautiful. Or even to support orchids if you're growing orchids inside. So that's another thing to look for to thrift from your garden. But Stuart, let's come back over here if you would. And by the way, so many of you guys asked me about the Terra hydrangeas because they were out of them online, and I'm gonna contact somebody at Southern Living Plant Collection to see if I can find them. Look at how mammoth those buds are. They get absolutely huge.
Those leaves are already like just gigantic.
Yes, and and thank you for saying that, Stuart, because foliage foliage is just another kind of gift from your garden that you can thrift from your garden. Tonight, I'm going to have some friends over for wine in the garden, maybe some charcuterie. So obviously you want to make sure whatever it is not poisonous. But beautiful hydrangea leaves, fig leaves, things like that to layer on your charcuterie board are something that adds a touch of graciousness and elegance to your garden and doesn't cost a thing. Look at how that window box is filled out, Stuart. I'm going to have to probably do a little bit of pruning on it because it's really filled out.
What are the super textured leaves one?
The fern or
No,
these? The heucherella?
No, next to that.
Next to that, these?
Yes.
Oh, these are just basic hosta. And a lot of you have asked me if I grow hosta, and I don't grow a lot in the ground because they just, I don't know, they just for me don't give me as much of a return on my investment as I would like because it gets so hot here, they get crispy. They're also so prone to slugs and snails and roly-polies. But here they're elevated in what is essentially a raised bed. And then these are coral bell flowers. Some of those would be from this Alabama sunrise heucherella. And some of these would also be very dear in a flower arrangement with some of that fern. So let's come back over here, Stuart, and let me kind of wrap up. I may have done, I don't know if that was 3, 4, 4.5. But here is, and still going strong, here is my sweet, in case you wanted to see it again, this is my little trough I did with some of that stringy sedum that was in front, and I just did a form of it shaped to this container as a template and plopped it in here, and I think it looks really, really dear. And you could do that with any kind of container and some kind of sedum growing in your garden. But then I wanted to lastly point this out again because I have used them pretty extensively fairly recently, and they just make a wonderful plant support. And that is these stems, the hollow stems from amaryllis. Now, you may not have any of these in your garden right now, but you'll know to look for them in the future at Christmas time or when you do have some kind of amaryllis blooms. But you might also have some kind of plant stalk that I am not thinking of that are also hollow and tuberous like this that you could use to put in a vase to hold your flowers up. Now, the classic flower that does that is the Gerber daisies. They flop over, and typically when you buy them at the florist or wherever you buy your cut flowers, you'll notice that they've got a little plastic tubular support that holds up the stem and supports the flower head. Well, rather than plastic, try to find something from your garden that would serve the purpose, and these work beautifully. You can let them dry. You can also use them as in your fresh cut flowers. I could use this right now. And what will happen is as the vascular system of the stem kind of absorbs all of that moisture, it then starts to kind of do this flaring and curling thing at the top that is really kind of cool, especially with a hydrangea bloom in them. And you can see over here, Stuart, I'm not going to cut it yet, but I have one more here after this blooms. Actually, I've got several. I can cut this one, I can cut this one, and I can cut this one. I think these I'm going to allow them to dry, and I'm going to use them in florist's arrangements this fall. So in the moment, be mindful, appreciate the beauty of spring, but always think about what kind of thrifted, natural, free items from the garden that you might be able to reuse, recycle, repurpose in some fashion in your own home, and they are free. So did that give you some ideas, Stuart?
I think so.
And hopefully it gave you some ideas too. So there you go. Have a wonderful Friday.